As you know, Ecowas is getting more and more frustrated about three countries, that is Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. So there was an opinion writer on the Standard newspaper who wrote, among other things, the need for Barrow to use his OIC role as chair to mediate in the crisis so that he can bring these three countries back to the fold. The next topic we are going to discuss will be about African Liberation Day. May 25th is usually a day with Africa reflect on the achievement it has had or where we have come from the liberation struggle. And third, but not the last, not the least, will be about diplomacy. How should Gambian diplomats behave? How they should dress? How they should talk? So these are the issues, gentlemen. I begin with Essa Bokar Sey. What is your take on the opinion piece written on the Standard, which made the headlines about the role President Barrow should take as OIC chair to mediate in the ongoing crisis in Ecowas?
Thank you, Mr. Balde. I comment Standard for the opinion piece because they are a newspaper, yes, but they are Gambians too. Anything that concerns the Gambia where they believe that the Gambia's name should be projected in a positive way, I think they can add in their advice because that's the role of the media. Now, when it comes to the position of an OIC chair, I think Honorable can bear me witness. Before we left the Gambia, we had a program soon after the OIC conference, and I did bring this, view that is being expressed on the Standard at that time on the air and said that for one to occupy the seat of the chairman of the OIC, which Abdullah Wada occupied, or the presidents before, it could be more vibrant than it has already been. But now we are at the end of the fourth year of his chairmanship, because it was last year, May 5th. We have already gone, in fact, after the fourth year. The fourth year is gone. So we have only 24 months to go. But for OIC to be invited to come and negotiate with these presidents, I believe maybe they are saying it because of all three countries are led by Muslim presidents, and then the predominant, it is predominantly Muslim countries where it's about the population. But I would not want it to stop at OIC. This is a combination of the OIC, the African Union, Ecowas, and United Nations, because OIC going there to negotiate, these negotiations are two lanes, diplomacy and military. I think Traore and others know what they are doing, and they are reaching out to other countries where they can fortify their borders. I don't know, because what can the chairmanship of the Gambia do in the first place? Would Traore even trust anybody from the Ecowas, sub-region as a president to come and talk to them? Because they already have this string of distrust between them and individual presidents within Ecowas itself. Whether we say it or not, we know. And how would he see them? I think, I don't know, but another party could do it. If Barrow wants to do it, fine, but I think if I were him, if I'm to do it, I will combine it with other people, not only to go there throwing your weight around as an OIC chair. But if you say that, I have this challenge also. Why didn't he go to other countries? Because we say OIC, 57 member states. Now, if you're a chair, you have not said a word about what is happening in the Middle East and other countries, and all of a sudden you want to jump and go to West African countries. How are the other member states going to see it too?
Okay. Now, this was an interview which was granted to Basamba Njol Drame. Standard actually quoted him, so that was what made the piece on the Standard newspaper. So, how do you think these efforts by Barrow, the OIC, will have any impact on where President Jomai Faye of Senegal failed, and even as we speak, John Dramani Mahama from Ghana also attempted. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, thank you, Ibrahim. Let's first understand that this is an opinion piece. It's not coming from Barrow himself or his people, telling that this is exactly what he's going to do. So this is somebody maybe suggesting that Barrow should do that as chairman of the OIC. Well, just like Ambassador C said, maybe OIC has a role in this, but a very, very limited role, because this is a political issue and also as well as a diplomatic issue as well. So I think this is, in fact, the leaving of these three countries, leaving ECOWAS is a very defining moment for the regional bloc. We all remember that ECOWAS started as 16 countries, but Mauritania eventually left the bloc and went to join the North African bloc. What's it called again?
Maghreb.
No, Maghreb. The Maghreb Union.
Yeah.
He went to join there, and we were left with 15 countries. Now 3 of the countries have left, and if what we are also hearing in Cote d'Ivoire, if it succeeds, like change of regime, if it succeeds, I have absolutely no doubt that they are also going to join. Because they are fed up with France, and they see what Ouattara is doing in Cote d'Ivoire as being too close to the French, and so let's hope that it wouldn't succeed. But if it succeeds, I have no doubt that Ivory Coast will join that bloc as well. We are hearing rumors as well that Togo also is thinking of joining, and anyway, whatever the case. But this is a defining moment for ECOWAS, because it would be extremely difficult to see how ECOWAS what they're going to do now, because they've tried everything. As Masadusi said, Jomai Faye had gone there. In fact, I understand Usman Sonko was there, was it yesterday or so as well. And then John Mahama of Ghana also had been to all the 3 countries trying to convince them. And there are a lot of other diplomatic channels being used to try to get them back, and they have virtually refused to accept all those. So I don't know if Barrow goes there. I don't know what message he's going to take there that has not already been taken to these people, and they have refused. So honestly, I don't think Barrow's getting into the ring would make any changes or positive changes whatsoever.
Okay. Ambassador C, why is
Yes,
so desperate to have these 3 countries back to the fore?
Thank you, Mr. Balde. Formally, we did talk about this, that some of us have been writing articles. In fact, some of my friends who are in the circle of diplomats would tease me and say, you are hammering ECOWAS. I said, no. Instead, I am being honest to ECOWAS and all the predictions that some of us made. One of the things that most of our elites do is, when you are hired by ECOWAS, AU, United Nations, you tend to believe that any outsider who criticizes you will just come out and tell them, they don't understand what is going on. That's not for me, though. They can't tell me that, because some of us have participated in the higher echelons when I was very young at the United Nations Security Council. We know how things go. ECOWAS cannot be independent of the UN Security Council where it comes to modalities, what is of operation, what is of logistics, what is of support. They cannot. So you can understand how things will turn out to be, because right now, Burkina Faso, according to what we read, if I am wrong, I am human, but I think they are the 4th largest country as far as gold deposits or gold producers in the world. And Ghana, we all know the original name of Ghana was Gold Coast during the colonial era. Okay, I wouldn't say it's the original name, but colonial era, it's the Gold Coast. Okay, so now with all that, Niger, we know the energy and everything in France, the bauxite, the everything. So these are very rich countries as far as resources are concerned. What has been holding them back is Francis, clause of colonialism choking them and still telling them that we are here to bring civilization or whatever you would call it? That's not it. The organizational discipline is what was lacking, shifting from colonialism to corrupt leadership. And leadership that would be more of form than substance would always be answering to the call that comes at midnight from Paris or any other country. That is what has been retarding these countries. So ECOWAS itself, what ECOWAS should do for me is not to be sending envoys to talk to these people. I don't even think that Jomai failed per se. I think it is a certain point of time he just realized that he wouldn't want them to put it on his shoulders when he had so many things to take care of. He was just coming newly. So for anybody to try to encourage the Gambian president, Adama Barrow, to get up and go there at this time, strategically speaking, I think that would be one of the worst mistakes that anybody can make him, undertake, if I would say it that way. So I am not in for, what I'm trying to say here, Mr. Balde, before I hand you over the mic, is that what stopped 1 year, last year, May 5th, is when this thing was signed. I was on the ground. Now we are May, I think today is May 22nd, isn't it?
Yes.
So we have 1 year, maybe 2 weeks or 1 week plus. What has the chairmanship of OIC done for the OIC Ummah so far? I don't know. I'm not saying he hasn't done anything, but I don't think there is anything to go by to give him a medal for, or anybody that's around him. I don't know, maybe. But before we talk about coming to negotiate in West Africa, OIC is not an African organization. It is the second largest intergovernmental organization. How many areas within the OIC family are experiencing turmoil, turbulence, wars? What did the chairman say? What has he done? I don't know. Maybe he has done something, but I think it will look paradoxical for us to just see him start to say he's going to negotiate when actually this thing is more of separation based on approaches, but there is nothing like a conflict among these countries. So if you are going to meet these countries for what? OIC, it is not the role of OIC to convince them to come back to ECOWAS. And if you are telling me that because they are at war, but they are not at war among themselves, the wars are internal.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you see prospects in these three breakaway countries, Niger, Mali, and Burkina, ever coming back to ECOWAS, maybe regretting the decision? And if that happens, what about if it continues like that and ECOWAS? You see ECOWAS crumbling also at some point?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it is very unlikely that these three countries will ever get back to ECOWAS because they seem to have gone too far out of ECOWAS. And I don't see anything else that would entice them to get back to ECOWAS because it is the same old regional bloc that they left, almost getting kind of moribund, not active at all, in pursuing their objectives. That is a regional kind of economic bloc that it was supposed to be. You've seen them struggling even to get the regional currency, the ECO, off the ground. They've been just every time they have a target, the moment they reach that target, they will push it again. They're just pushing the goalposts. So if they cannot even reach a consensus as to getting a regional currency, I cannot understand what else they are, because that was one of their most important, mandates. That is to try and unify the region economically, and then the best way to go about it is to have a unified currency, and that they cannot get, So honestly, I have no hope that they could be able to bring back these three countries. And in fact, what is likely to happen is other countries would join them eventually, and that would be dispel the end of ECOWAS as we know it. Definitely, I have no doubt about that.
Okay. One last point on this issue before we move into our next topic. Ambassador C, what is your take on the prospect for ECOWAS?
Well, thank you, Mr. Balde. Well, the prospects for ECOWAS are minimal, if not, they are so remote. Because what I want to say here is ECOWAS is trying to put the horse cart before the horse. Because if you are an organization that claims to be the hub of all the activities within the sub-region, recently we had Barrow in Guinea-Bissau told them to leave his country or most likely they were going to be arrested, isn't it? And they hurriedly left Guinea-Bissau. I think there is where diplomacy should begin from. If had they gone back, spoken to Mbalo, convince him, people will see them go to Guinea-Bissau, organize a conference with him there, and then they see an interministerial or whatever they would call it, or not interministerial, but the cabinet of Bissau sitting with ECOWAS officials and all that. I think that would have given them a better image building before you think about it. You already cannot access Guinea-Bissau because they were sent out. If they can access Guinea-Bissau, the last time we all read, they were sent out. That is lower, at the lower echelon of diplomacy. That should be thrust out first. But if you leave that there, you want to go to other people who have already left. And the people who are already inside, the ones who are inside, are not even respecting ECOWAS. What do you expect Traore, Goita, and our brother in Niger would do? So, and then ECOWAS, what they should fight against, Ibrahim, like Honorable said, I like the reference he made about the currency. When I was ambassador in Washington, that's in 2003, they came to my office and went to the offices of different West African ambassadors talking about the ECO. Up to today, the same ECO is being spoken about. In fact, they are one of the people that came, as soon as they left, in fact, they were, I think part of the regime was the late, Bishop Tilawa Johnson, a good man. So these things have been on. If you cannot solve the ECO, the currency, and then we still have, ECOWAS is divided, not only because of the Sahelian countries. When ECOWAS has been divided from day one, they did not fight against it. How are they divided? You have Francophone, Anglophone, and Lusophone. That's why Mauritania left. I think they joined the Maghreb or the Arab League, saying that they are not part of ECOWAS. Because they are right. Because ECOWAS is divided based on language barrier itself. Did they fight against it? Did ECOWAS put in place a curriculum that would be adopted by the 15 member states for our schools since 1975 to now? Had they brought in what they would call the Ecolingo or Ecophone, then we forget about Anglophone and Francophone and Lusophone. We have Ecophone. By now, we might have been speaking one language, but they are already divided based on language barriers. Some people who inherited something from France, from Britain, the borders are artificial. You cannot cross to other countries. It is just diplomatic talk, but the division is not caused by Traore, it's not caused by Goita or the man in Niger. It is caused by the remnants of colonialism that ECOWAS itself did not fight against from day one.
Thank you so much. Let's now move into our second topic, that is about diplomacy. When we are talking about diplomacy, maybe myself and DA, we are journalists about the third member in the panel, that is Ambassador Essa Bokar Sey. Is a seasoned diplomat. Recently, Dr. Tangara made a statement about the need for Gambian diplomats to behave diplomatically. That is the way they talk, the way they dress, even their attitude at work and with other people as well. So, DA, what is your take about the way our diplomats, as Gambian diplomats, have behaved lately?
Well, you can definitely, it's not a surprise to anybody, because the very fact that most of the diplomats right now are failed politicians who have been taken and posted to our diplomatic mission, people who have no idea what diplomacy is, people who have been struggling here. They maybe contested elections and they were defeated at the election. So, President Barrow wants to compensate them for their loyalty to his party and then, impose them on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I think, Tangara definitely needs to be blamed here, because being the chief diplomat and the head of the ministry, he should not allow, all this kind of his area, his ministry to be used as a dumping ground. And that is exactly what it is today. People who have absolutely no idea what diplomacy is. Not even diplomacy here at home. I mean, some of them, you go, you see how they treat their wives and children, and even the way they behave in society. I mean, at least what they should have done was, before you send these people to the field, give them some rudimentary training as to basics of diplomacy. I mean, you have people like seasoned diplomats like Ambassador Bokar Sey around. I'm sure he'd be willing to give them the ABC of diplomacy before sending them to the field. But that is what they have failed to do. So, I mean, Tangara has no one to blame but himself for allowing President Barrow to be using his territory as a dumping ground. Absolutely. And it's unfortunate.
DA, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Certainly, I will not. But when statements are made, they should be put in context. Tangara made those remarks in the wake of what happened in South Africa, like our Gambian ambassador in South Africa, the leaked audio in which he was heard insulting the UDP. So a lot of people put that statement in context to applaud Tangara. But you must not forget, in 2013, October 2013, to be precise, Tangara was engaged in a fisticuff, in the Gambian when Jami was here. So, I mean, that video, which was, how to call it, it went viral over social media. A lot of people applauded him. Of course, I also applaud him for that. But he was talking like he was the angel himself, because he cited an example where an ambassador fought in his office. This was in 2004 in Cuba, in which the ambassador sustained injuries. And then we talk about also some other instances he cited. So I just wanted to put this into context. So can you throw more light on this?
Yeah, I don't know why you people applauded Tangara for fighting against anybody else.
I mean the statement it made, because the statement went viral and people were
you mean the statement made the other day, just a few days ago. Yeah, I mean, of course, he was maybe just accepting reality. I mean, that some of the staff members or diplomatic missions are definitely not fit for purpose, because they are kind of embarrassing the nation. He's even cited examples of a person who was actually asked to leave the meeting because of the way he dressed, and even cited an example of a diplomatic school in Malta, which actually gave, I think made Gambia as a case study, the way Gambian diplomats behave as a case study to their students or something of that. These are all issues which are very, very embarrassing. And this is, it should have at least taught Tangara and those in charge of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that, these things are no longer acceptable. As I said, at least give them some rudimentary training on diplomacy before you send them to the field. You just can't send maybe somebody from the Wuro in Kuntaya and then the
Okay. So DA, thank you. We are going to give the man from Kuntaya to tell us.
I know Honorable likes teasing, and that I couldn't control. I report you to Albakan. Wait. Okay.
So Ambassador C, where are you in all this? Where were you when Tangara was making that statement, appearing to be the angel that he was never, holier than thou attitude?
Ibrahim, you're making me laugh. You're reminding me where were you? I was here. Okay. You know where I'm coming from anyway. But on a more serious note, Ibrahim, what you are bringing forward today is definitely these are pertinent issues, important, and should remain matters of concern for every Gambian. Now, when we come to diplomacy, I think what people forget to understand is that what is individual and what is institutional, when it is combined in what is transactional within the confines of defined traditions of diplomacy, you are not an individual, you are an institution or an extension of an institution, which is the state. And the state also is an extension of the nation. So if you go outside in whatever you do, if the moment you are outside, that's why diplomats in terms of law are very powerful. Why are they powerful? Because they are covered by the Vienna Convention, and then they enjoy immunity, which is even more powerful than the immunity of a National Assembly member or a lawmaker. Because if you break the law in another country, even if it is a murder case, unless and until your country that sent you lifts your diplomatic immunity whilst you are on the ground, you will only be declared persona non grata. That's why diplomats are very powerful. That's why the power there is because what is expected of a diplomat is to be above everything that is of character, that is of decorum, that is of form, that is of substance. That's why they call you ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary. That's why they call you that. It's not a decoration for you to run around with medals and calling. No, you are called all that because you are expected to deserve. That's why it's when you are a diplomat, you really have to understand when you speak, it is Gambia that speaks. When you behave, it is Gambia that behaves. If you are quoted for having misspoken, Gambia has been quoted for having misspoken. If you misbehave, Gambia is quoted for having misbehaved. I remember when I was ambassador in Taiwan, luckily for some of us, we were very young. We were more on the precarious lane of doing things that may compromise our jobs because of the age. But I remember when we arrived in Paris, some people are diplomats, some are Secret Service. They will talk to you and advise you as to where you should go. They used to tell us to be very careful of going to Saint-Denis. Those who know Paris know Saint-Denis. It is a place where you have some kind of nightlife. Don't go there because people can take a picture of a diplomatic car, you know? And I remember when I was in Taiwan, they would advise you, don't go into hotels and do something else. Be careful of the chandeliers. Be careful of the flowers because people can put cameras there and film you. These are things they prepared you for. Why? Because they expect you to be an extraordinary person per se. Now, when it comes to speeches, what you say, now, the institution in South Africa, I don't see that as an individual. The individual is there, but the individual is an institution. Now, the institution there, what you say behind the scenes and in public, you should always say, like they say in French, le diplomate doit toujours balancer ses mots. It's like a diplomat should always balance their words because the impact, if anybody else said this, it might not reach the state. No. And now the unfortunate part of it, the embarrassing part of it is that you are assigned to travel abroad to represent a country. Now, what is expected of you to use the skills of a diplomat to make sure that you build bridges between Gambia and those other countries. Now, the bridges are burnt inside the Gambia itself, like they say in Wolof. You cannot tell me that I can cook porridge for myself and I have to eat to my satisfaction. I cannot even eat to my satisfaction, but I can still make enough porridge for us to take it to the market and sell it to people or give it to the Taliban to eat. How can I believe you? Because like the damage of diplomacy is done inside the Gambia itself, amongst us. So how do you expect, let's say if there was to be a conflict in South Africa and all the ambassadors in Pretoria are called to bring whatever skills they have with them to restore normalcy among those factions in Pretoria. The moment an individual who is an institution representing us goes with that spot, with that stain on your image, let's say, be lucky, if you are unlucky, you meet Malema, do you think he is not going to make reference to that? He will. So I think this is very unfortunate. If you want me to continue to address the minister, I can do that because I definitely saw it today when you told me about it. I saw the video because I came down whilst you were talking to me. I came down and saw it, and I was like, okay, this is what is being talked about for our program today. Well, in 2017, to be more precise, in a hotel, Red Roof Hotel, in Jacksonville, South Carolina. I was invited, I think it was, Africa, to talk about the former Minister of Interior who was taken out of his position and then asked to, the usual term is redeployed to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You see, in France, in Senegal, when that happens, they say, rappeler à d'autres fonctions, which means the person has been recalled for other functions, but they don't specify whether you're going to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But it used to happen during Jammeh's time, but it's more rampant now because it's like the Foreign Affairs Ministry is a dumping ground, which is very, very, very misleading. The cream of the cream should go to Foreign Affairs, not a failed politician, not somebody who lost election, not a former minister that has been taken out of his job and then is being recycled. You don't use Foreign Affairs to recycle people. Some of us have been writing this over and over. Why didn't the minister capture that thought process, not only from Essa Bokar Sey, but from others? And then, like they say in our proverbs, if you are a book, you cannot ask people, you can teach people how to take shower, but you don't take shower. That's what they say in Wolof. Now, the history of the minister himself is on record. He fought. It is on record. Causes, abuses, inflammatory language, all was used. And those people are alive. One of them is Falai Balde, and the other one is Bakari Jag. Okay? And other Gambians witnessed that. So if that is on your slate, I think speaking honestly as a human being is better than trying to extract yourself like you are the cream of the cream, when actually that is not the case, because we have had so many foreign ministers in the Gambia. Balong Sonko is there. Ababakar Blesjan is there. Other people. There are certain diplomats in the country. Cherno Jallo is there. William John Juve is there. My uncle Jogu Sayerba is there. Okay? Ibu Mane is there. The Bobaji is there. Okay? Today, Ambassador Baima Stal is there. Okay? These people could have been brought together. Let the government stop this idea of somebody who doesn't come to rally, somebody who doesn't talk nice about Barrow. Oh, no. We are not here to appease Barrow. We are here to advise him, to be near him, so that the country will move forward. Because praises are a slow poison. Now that poison is eating the system up. Because everybody will just say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Who trains these people? There was a time when you are hired Ministry of Foreign Affairs. First thing you do, I was hired in 1993. Beginning of 1994, I was in Sierra Leone, IPAM, Institute of Public Administration, trained by Mr. Sumner and others. You stay there until you get the diploma, you come, the diploma and come by. Okay? You are trained to know how to function as a diplomat. But if you take people and then you just say it's a dumping ground, the Foreign Affairs should not be the Ministry of Compensation. It should not be the Ministry of massaging egos of politicians who fail to get the votes. What those people should have been transformed into was to stay, get the double cabins of NPP maybe, and then let them test them again to see if they can canvass for votes. That's what they should do, but not to send them in ministries. During Jammeh's time, I think it's Jammeh's time, we had a diplomat who bit the ear of another diplomat. So sometimes I would just look at myself and say, if Tangara is saying that Malta is making reference to the Gambia of their diplomats misbehaving, that is his time though. But there was a time, our diplomacy, Botswana knows that, Senegal itself knows that, because Senegal's late ambassador to the United Nations, Ibra Degen Ka, was one of the best diplomats in the world. And Ibra Degen Ka used to subdue before Ababakar Blesjan. Lavrov, the right-hand man of Putin today, used to subdue before Ababakar Blesjan and Maudo Nuru Ture and others. That time, Gambia, small Gambia, was standing up for Cuba. We were standing up for Taiwan. We were standing up for Libya, small Gambia. We fought for all those countries, diplomatically speaking. So if diplomacy is a stain today, is a stigma today, let them ask themselves. They caused it, but not diplomacy itself.
Okay. All right. Now, what do you think is responsible for this? Hot temperament, or maybe due to different political ideologies? Because when an ambassador is appointed, the other colleagues, he or she has no role to play in their appointment. So sometimes egos clash here and there. But don't you think also what would provoke this diplomat is due to temperament?
I don't think so. As far as I'm concerned, the problem is actually taking the wrong people, putting them in the right places or wrong places, whatever. Because, I mean, if the people know exactly what diplomacy is, they would not, no matter how short-tempered they are, they would know the implications of getting, I mean, fighting each other or behaving in a way which actually goes into, as Ambassador Z says, I mean, tarnishing the name of the country and our pride as a nation rather than the individual here. I mean, the individuals may fight or insult each other, whatever, but I mean, it has very negative implications. I mean, on the country itself as a country. That's the thing. As far as I'm concerned, you know, Dr. Tangara should not allow his territory to be used as a dumping ground. That's the only solution to it. But if you accept all these characters in the diplomatic field, definitely then we will never escape the embarrassment that we are going through. Yeah.
Okay. That does it for this topic. We are going into our last topic, that is the African Liberation Day. DA and Ambassador C, African Liberation Day. How relevant is that topic in our current dispensation? Ambassador C.
Well, just to balance carry forward a little bit, Ibrahim, I know you closed the other topic, but I just wanted to say something. I think on the video as I watched, I heard about political appointees. I believe the minister himself is a political appointee. It is not a question of being a political appointee, but it's a question of shifting from being a political appointee into a different arena of diplomacy, and then you retrain them. That's not an excuse. Some people who can be political appointees, they are far better than people who have been permanent secretaries also. I just wanted to say that. Okay? So now, let's come to the African Liberation Day. Well, as for me, I don't know how somebody can make me believe that Africa is liberated. Well, if liberation is an ongoing process, then okay, because we are yet to be liberated now. Because the founding fathers, the reason why this was in place, look at Africa today. Most of the things that Nkrumah, Amilcar Cabral, okay, Patrice Emery Lumumba, Samora Machel, Nelson Mandela, others and others, what they were refusing, the dignity we had, the taste of that dignity is gone. Our dignity today is tasteless. It's more of form than substance. I mean, I don't know. People will be celebrating these things. Look at us, Gambia. Look at other countries. We always like independence celebration. But are we independent? Economically, we are not. And the other thing is that people who are charged with the responsibility of leading these countries, you see some of them travel to other countries in the world, they behave like a school kid before an other leader. Even if you are more powerful than I am, if I travel to your country as a president, I will behave like a president, I will speak like a president, I will act like a president, because you have to respect me. There is no country in the world, however powerful it is, that does not need Africa. But we, the Africans, today, the topic we just had recently, African Liberation Day, when we have the alliance of Sahel states seceding from Ecowas, when we have the problem in Sudan, when everybody is trying to use the playbook of diplomats in other countries, you come and sit with them. Everything about Africa is cocktail, is meeting, is lunch, and nothing will be solved. So we are, like I used to say, we are onto MMM, meeting minutes, and then MMF, I would say, meeting minutes file, meeting minutes file. You never say MMI, meeting minutes implement. Nothing is implemented. Look at the ladies in, I think, Mozambique, I think, and the other lady, I think, is Tanzania. At least
Namibia, Tanzania.
Those people can tell me that they should be the ones who should come on stage and talk about Africa Liberation Day. And I will just seize this opportunity. Believe me, Ibrahim, I'm not emotional about it, but I think naturally, why not we men, we leave the stage and allow all these countries, 53 countries in Africa, to be led by women, and we see what will happen then.
That's interesting. DA, how relevant is it? Because by then, we used to have, Pan-African leaders like the late Robert Mugabe, but at some point also he was, after all, not, in theory, he appeared to be a Pan-Africanist, but in practice he wasn't. Those who are in Zimbabwe will tell you that. So where are we on the road to liberation, if there is any?
Yeah, honestly, when this phrase was being coined, Africa Liberation Day, I mean, the objective was fine. The objective was actually to highlight the need for to totally liberate Africa from colonialism. But along the way, it seemed to have, lost its relevance or whatever. I mean, it was aimed to do. Right now, I think it is more of an empty slogan than a reality. Because, I mean, liberation, okay, maybe politically we have attained our independence, right? But economically and mentally as well, we seem to be still colonized, somehow. So, if we are to liberate Africa, we have to tackle those issues, particularly the mental colonization. We see ourselves as subordinates of other countries and continents as well. So, the objective maybe was fine, but in reality, honestly, it is not addressing what it was meant to address, when it was being coined. So it's just another slogan, which actually, particularly right now where we have these sit tight leaders sitting down, waiting, refusing to go. Some of them have been there for more than 50 years in office. And, this is it. So you cannot call that liberation if the people who are actually supposed to be leading the liberation are refusing to go themselves, and completely irrelevant in the political scene. But they are sitting down there. It's defeating the purpose of what the topic, or what the idea was when it was being coined.
Okay, what the idea was, what it was being coined. I'm giving Ambassador C the last word on this issue. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think I will just play with words here just to bring in humor, but at the same time it's serious. Now we say African Liberation Day. I think we should change it to African Lip Service Day. Yeah, because that's all we see all the time. Ibrahim, thank you for giving me the last word. I think what I want to say is just to buttress what Honorable has just said. You see, what is practical in what is expected of us as African sons and daughters, and what is practical from what is expected of our leaders, is not what we are seeing right now. You see, the unfortunate part of it is that the former leaders, they saw dignity, they saw discipline, they saw determination to make sure that Africa will move forward. But right now, this, some I would call it so-called democracy, has transformed politics and governance into a game of political mercenaries. It is now business. It is no longer duty. It is no longer responsibility. It is no longer governance. That's the fact. It's business. That's why people will tell you, if you want to be rich fast, just go in politics. And that's why Albert Einstein said it. The moment we sit around and watch and say we do not want to participate in it, you may end up seeing somebody leading you that you would question yourself, how did this person succeed to come above me? Because the issue is, look at our people. When you are going into politics, you see, some of us have started smiling, and then we know, I mean, they don't know the strategic things that some of us are doing. Some people will approach you and say, yeah, if I do this, if I come, if you come. That's the way they come to power. If I do this for you, when I come, you will do this for me. Now, instead of the people, it is those in power, the few, who transform the masses, the wealth of the nation, into a product to be sold so that they can sit on power. That's why Africa is not liberated. That's why Africa cannot go forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Essa Bokar Sey from Kentucky, and Demba Ali Jaw, veteran journalist from Maryland, and I'm from New York in Staten Island. Thank you. Join us next week for another brand new edition of Global Matters.